Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, students. Yes, very good afternoon, Swati, Bhumika, Om Krishna Om. Good afternoon, Arjun, Shoaib. There are some other students who are not attending through the Zoom, but they can see that they are there on the BOS app. Okay, very nice. So, we had studied in the last session, like I had said, that we will do some MCQs first from the last session. So, shall we do the MCQs first based on our topic of tax invoice? Do you want the MCQs first, or do you want to go through this chapter? First MCQ. Okay. Since we have completed last chapter, it'll be better that we go through those MCQs. I don't have it in a PPT, but I have it in a Word document. So we'll just go through the Word document then on the topic of tax invoice. Not many questions, just 8 MCQs that will help us to understand what is our level of studies, what we had in the chapter of tax invoice. 1 minute, I'll just put it off in a PPT that should help you.
सर आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही अभी।
Hello.
यस सर।
Yes, sir. I'm just sharing the screen. So we were discussing on the MCQs of the previous chapter. So this is the first question. Only two answers. First one answer. Okay, few people are saying D and few are saying C. How is it possible that you're confusing in this simple question? Question is it mandatory to mention the details of tax amount charged in the invoice? Yes, it is optional, and also mention the nature of tax. Few people are saying option is C. Few people are saying no, it is D. No, it is optional for B2C and for mandatory for B2B, since only B2B receives claim of credit. So few people are thinking the answer is D, but that is not the correct answer. Whether he claims the credit or he does not claim the credit. Okay. You have to mention the tax what is charged. Okay. If you're collecting something from the customer, then you have to mention it. Okay. We had seen section 32 and 33, right? Wherein it is mentioned that you have to mandatorily mention the tax amount. So the correct answer is C. Okay. Next MCQ. Question number 2. Question number 2, everybody have given their opinion answer. Okay, first everyone is saying C. Now 2. If you are saying B, okay, again a split verdict here. People are again confused. Tax credit can be taken on which of the following documents? Okay. Can it be taken on the basis of invoice? Yes, definitely invoice. Can it be taken on base of bill of supply? No, right? Bill of supply is when you supply something on which it is exempted, or is it is a supply by a composition dealer. So on B you cannot take. On the base of debit note, can you take the credit? Yes, you can take the credit. So answer is A and C, which is mentioned in E. So the correct answer is A and C. Correct. Okay, few people were saying that it is B and D. No, it is actually E, because it is both on invoice and debit note you can claim the credit. MCQ number 3. What is the last date by which you need to issue a credit note? I had mentioned September, you're right that it is November because earlier it was September. So I'm just continuing it. The actual date should be November. You can claim the credit by the November. I'll just change the question here on or before November 30th. Correct, identified Krishno. And the correct answer for this is A. No, even after correction, the due date up to which you can issue the credit notice, if you have filed the annual return before 30th November, then it will not become A, no? It will become A or B, whichever is earlier. So the correct answer will be C. It is earlier of 30th November or the date of filing annual return, whichever is earlier. That's why I admit they made that mistake so that to check whether after correcting it, are you changing your answer? You're correcting your answer, which is not correct. Even though it was September or November after the amendment, you can issue the credit note by that date or the filing of annual return, whichever is earlier. What is the last date by which you can issue the debit note? Here also, instead of 30th September, I will correct it because you will again tell that, sir, your question is wrong. So credit note and debit note, everybody is giving the same answer. Few people are giving the same answer that yes, it is C for this also. Earlier of the due dates. Yes, but others have given the smart answer. Arjun, Abhishek, Bhumika, Khushi, yeah, Arin. A lot of people have given the correct answer that it is D, none of the above. Why do you issue a debit note? You issue a debit note as and when it is enhanced. Correct. So in the month when you find that there is a mistake, in that month you can issue a debit note and pay the taxes to the government. Right. So there is no time limit for issuance of debit note. Question number 5. Very simple question. I hope there will not be any mistakes in this. Yes, till now I'm getting the correct answers. If you see MCQs will be very easier. Okay, but in the course of your exams, because of your time pressure, okay, you will have to do the time management because you feel that no, you have very shortage of time. You will tend to get confused, and because of that pressure, you will put the tick on the wrong answer. So be very careful. MCQs are not very tough. It has to be only patiently understood. Without pressure, you have to answer them. Everybody's given their answers. Five B. Bhumika, why do you think the answer is B? Swaroop, you are also giving saying it is fifth B. It is not B. The correct answer is C. Okay. Because it was removed from the factory on 29 September. So invoice has to be raised before that, right? It is not when you had when you had agreed to deliver. Actually, when the goods are getting removed, that is the time when you have to raise the invoice, not when you had committed. Sometimes you may commit now, but deliver it later on. So you will not raise the invoice when you had committed, right? When the actual transaction happens is when you will raise the invoice. So in this case, it is mentioned that they removed the finished spare parts from its factory on 29 September. That's why you have to raise the invoice by the 29 September. Sixth question. Sixth one, everybody has fine given the correct answer. The question is simple. A composition taxpayer who has not rendered any taxable supply during a quarter, what should he do with respect to return filing? If you are saying he has to file return for this quarter and next quarter together, no. The correct answer is there is a concept of nil returns saying that even if you don't have any transactions, you have to file nil returns. So correct answer is C. Yeah, except one or two, I think everybody has given a correct answer. There is no option to file a declaration as such. Okay, you have to only file a returns and return should be nil returns. Can you please briefly discuss fifth MCQ? Okay, we'll come to the fifth MCQ. First, we'll close this. And seventh one, everybody is saying C. Yes, since the majority of you are saying C, yes, this is correct. You have to cancel the e-way bill and generate a new one. Why? If there is a mistake in e-way bill, you have an option to edit. Like how we have an option in the returns, also we don't have an option to edit. In the e-way bill also, there is no option to edit. So you have an option to cancel it, that too within a specified time. Within a specified time, you have to cancel it and generate a new e-way bill. Last MCQ. Bhumika, once you answer this, then we'll go back to your fifth MCQ question. Yes. Correct answer is D. What has to be done if the validity of B bill expires? The goods are not supposed to be removed because you can remove goods only with the basis of a valid e-way bill, and the transporter may extend the validity. Okay. However, if from your end it is not possible, the transporter can extend the validity by updating the reason for that extension. Now the fifth MCQ is: Amazing Enterprises Delhi entered into a contract with FlipServe Bangalore for supply of spare parts of a machine on 7th September. Okay, they entered into a contract on 7th September. The spare parts were to be delivered on 30th September, because when they enter into agreement, they will ask for the supplier by when you will deliver it. So they agreed that we will deliver by 30th September. Okay, or on 30th September itself will deliver. Now Sultan Industries removed the finished goods. It got ready earlier and they removed the spare parts on 29th September. So in this scenario, when it is actually removed on 29th, what is the date by which invoice must be issued is the question. When the goods are ready for dispatch, you will not wait for the day when you had agreed at, right? When the goods are ready in advance, you will dispatch it. And invoice has to be raised immediately when you dispatch it. So 29th September, it is ready to dispatch. You will raise the invoice on the 29th of September itself. Yeah, the Amazing Enterprises is just to confuse you, just the names are a bit interchanged. But determine the date on which invoice is to be issued by Sultan Industries. And Sultan Industries had removed the finished goods on 29th September. So we have to consider 29th September itself as the relevant date. Correct. First two lines are irrelevant. Okay, clear with this chapter? Now can we go to our chapter for today, wherein we are discussing on what? We are today discussing on accounts and records. Okay. Okay. Today we'll be discussing on this chapter of accounts and records. We know about the documents. We know that what is a invoice, what is a debit note, what is a credit note. We know that documentation. Now, after understanding the documentation, what is to be issued, now those documents has to be collated and accounts has to be mentioned. Correct? Why? Because we will file a return. Now, return has to be filed by us on our own evaluation. Now, to do that evaluation, our records should be correct. That's why our records are correct, maintained. From the records, what do? We file the returns. Okay. So that's why this we've gone into that sequence saying that first is what is the documents you will maintain. आप documents क्या बनाओगे? अगर आपका invoice, डेबिट नोट, क्रेडिट नोट बन गया है तब उसको आपको अकाउंट्स में मेंटेन करना पड़ेगा. करेक्ट. अकाउंट्स के बेसिस से आपको रिटर्न्स फाइल करना है. तो इसीलिए अभी हम बेसिक डॉक्यूमेंट समझने के बाद अभी समझेंगे कि क्या क्या अकाउंट्स और रिकॉर्ड्स मेंटेन करना है जीएसटी में जो हमारे रिटर्न्स के लिए यूजफुल रहेगा. ठीक है. फर्स्ट इज आपको ये सवाल देना पड़ेगा, व्हाट इज द मोस्ट पावरफुल सेक्शन इन जीएसटी. मतलब पूरे जीएसटी लॉ में सबसे पावरफुल सेक्शन कौन सा है? हम्म. शोएब ने पढ़ाई कर ली है, so he's got the correct answer. Others are just guessing it. That's good. What you're saying is also correct. According to you, that is the important section. But what answers you're giving in terms of section 7, section 16, Bhumika is saying on ITC, Swati is saying section 15 on value of supply. Correct. So there are various sections which are there. Okay, but Shoaib and Om Krishnom have given the correct answer. The important section is section 59, which is on self-assessment. Because input tax credit, supply are all there. They're definitely important because unless supply happens, nothing will move under GST. And the backbone of the GST we call as ITC. So ITC is also important. That is all correct. Lekin once we follow that, then we have to file a return. Now, how do you file a return? If this section would not have been there, what would have happened is we would have still filed the return. And when we file the return, all the returns will be subject to scrutiny. Why? Because there is no assessment done for these returns. It's just a statement which we have given. But because of this section, section 59, which says that self-assessment, every registered person shall self-assess the taxes which is payable under this act, and he will furnish a return for each tax period as specified under section 39. तो रिटर्न तो फाइल करेगा ही, लेकिन सेल्फ असेस करके फाइल करेगा. He will assess his own liability. So generally when we say assessment is happening, we get scared saying that officer is coming and come for scrutiny. Correct. But in this case, you have to do that assessment. Not when the officer comes, you have to do your own assessment on a monthly basis. Because you will file your returns on a monthly basis, or if you're filing it on a quarterly basis, you have to do the assessment on a quarterly basis. So that's why self-assessment is that which you are doing and then you are filing the returns. So your returns are basically a result of the self-assessment what you have done. जो सेल्फ असेस करोगे उसका आउटकम जो है रिटर्न है. तो इसीलिए सेल्फ असेसमेंट में क्यों इंपॉर्टेंट बोल रहा हूं, क्योंकि इसमें क्या हो रहा है, आप अपने काम को ही सेल्फ असेस करके, डिपार्टमेंट असेसमेंट सेकेंडरी है, वो भी प्रोसीजर्स है, लेकिन आप अपने रिटर्न्स को, अपने डेटा को, अपने इंफॉर्मेशन को असेस कर रहे हो, इसीलिए सेल्फ असेसमेंट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. ओके. So every registered person shall self-assess the taxes which is payable under this act and furnish a return for each tax period as specified under section 39. सो आपका जो रिटर्न्स है ना, वही एक असेसमेंट ऑर्डर है। ओके, जैसे इनकम टैक्स में आपके रिटर्न्स फाइल करते हो, यू आर नॉट डूइंग असेसमेंट, यू आर जस्ट डिस्क्लोजिंग, फिर उसका असेसमेंट ऑफिसर के हाथ में होता है। लेकिन अंडर जीएसटी, you yourself are an officer at the first level because you have to assess your own self. You will do a self assessment and then file the return. और रिटर्न फाइल हो गया तो मतलब आपका फर्स्ट सेल्फ असेसमेंट का ऑर्डर भी आ गया है। ओके, उसको चैलेंज करने के लिए ऑफिसर विल डू द असेसमेंट अंडर सेक्शन 73 एंड 74। वो सेकेंडरी हो गया, बट प्राइमरी असेसमेंट आप ही कर रहे हो, आप असेस करके रिटर्न फाइल कर रहे हो। Okay, so 59 is the point on self-assessment. As per this section, every taxpayer has to do a self-assessment of his own books and records, and basis that he has to file his returns for each tax period. So every taxpayer has to do the assessment of his books and records, and he has to file the return. So इसीलिए this chapter is very important because जो powerful section है जीएसटी में, उसका डिस्क्लेमर, उसका डिक्टेशन, उसका प्रोसीजर एस्पेक्ट्स क्या है, वो इस चैप्टर में समझाया गया है। आफ्टर सेल्फ असेसमेंट कंप्लायंस वेरिफिकेशन इज डन बाय डिपार्टमेंट, क्योंकि सभी का सेल्फ असेसमेंट करेक्ट होना ये जरूरी नहीं है। करेक्ट, डिपार्टमेंट को रेवेन्यू, गवर्नमेंट का रेवेन्यू बचाना जरूरी है, सो दे विल डू अ कंप्लायंस वेरिफिकेशन थ्रू स्क्रूटनी ऑफ द रिटर्न्स और इन्वेस्टिगेशन, वेरियस tools they have and various powers under different sections they have it. But from the dealer's registered person's perspective, the only one section he has, which is section 59 on self-assessment. This compliance verification is done through documentary check. हमने file कर दिया है. Now officer will check it. So they will do a verification of the documents what we have maintained. They will check the invoices, but invoices ज़्यादा हो तो कैसे check कर सकते हैं? So then they will check the accounts and the records. This compliance verification, what we are talking about through scrutiny of returns and investigation, requires proper accounts and records to be maintained by the taxpayer. So this compliance verification requires proper accounts and records to be maintained by the taxpayer. They have to maintain proper books of accounts and proper records. अगर proper नहीं maintain करेंगे तो officer क्या कैसे check कर पाएंगे? So that's why he has to maintain proper accounts and records, which is to be maintained by the taxpayer. So that is the background why we are reading this chapter. Any doubts here? Basic doubts भी हो आपको तो आप पूछ सकते हो। So basically, where should the books and accounts be maintained? Okay. Now we may have a head office, we may have a go down, we may have a branch. So a lot of various things we may have. So where should we maintain the books of accounts? Books of accounts, what books of accounts? We will see it. But firstly, where should the books of accounts be maintained? It should be maintained at the principal place of business. We have seen, right, that what is under registration, you can take registration for multiple places or you can take registration for individual places. Okay, when you take registration for multiple places, one place will be called as principal place of business, correct? So that principal place of business, and then other branches will be called as additional place of business. So whatever records are to be maintained has to be maintained at the principal place of business. That is the relevance of the principal place of business, saying that when you identify one of those 10 locations in a state to be called as place of businesses, one should be the principal place of business where all your books of accounts are maintained. Otherwise, what is the relevance of that? That's why principal place of business, they will maintain all the books of accounts. Responsibility, apart from the person who is the registered person, very important that responsibility is also cast on the owner or operator of the warehouse. Now, when you are dealing with any goods, you are selling any goods on an e-commerce platform. जैसे आप Amazon में डील करते हो, then Amazon will need delivery of your product soon, right? So they will say, don't keep your goods at your place. You keep it at our warehouse so that if some order comes, we will immediately take it and deliver. क्योंकि आपके जगह आप अगर कोई गांव में हो, आई कैन नॉट कम एंड पिक इट अप एंड गेट इट डिलीवर, तब तक तो मेरा ऑर्डर टाइम चला जाएगा. सो आई कैन नॉट अफोर्ड टू कीप द प्रोडक्ट्स एट योर प्लेस. You keep it at the warehouse, and Amazon has a big warehouse wherein all the most of the customers' goods are stored with the Amazon itself. Okay, so Amazon is what then? He is a operator, okay, or a operator of the warehouse. Person who operates the warehouse is called as the operator of the warehouse. So he is the operator of the warehouse. So that responsibility to maintain books of accounts is also cast on the owner or operator of the warehouse or godown or any place used to storage of goods to maintain records, even if he is not registered. So if you keep your goods at a warehouse and the warehouse owner is not registered, so he cannot wash away his hands saying that, no, I don't know whose books and whose documents are here. He will have to keep the records of the person whose books or whose documents are kept with him. So the warehouse owner's responsibility is multifold. First तो वो जगह दे रहा है, जगह देने के साथ साथ उसको वहां के records को maintain करना पड़ेगा. So many big warehouses you see, they don't operate just like a place. Okay, because if it is just giving it a place, you yourself are the owner. Suppose I am a company. I am say Excite Batteries company. Now I have my own factory where I manufacture. Now I'm storing at a warehouse. Now the warehouse owner is giving it to me on rent, the full premises. Then I am the owner because I paid the rent. So that responsibility of maintaining the batteries at that warehouse is mine. Now, some places what happens is the owner don't give the control of the complete warehouse to me because it is very big. I'm saying that I need a warehouse, but I just need 1,000 square feet. You have 20,000 square feet. I can't use it. So what the owner says, okay, in this I cannot build separate walls and give it to you. In this itself, I'll earmark special place for you. मैं आपका लाइनिंग डाल दूंगा, वहां पे आपके गुड्स रखिए. और वैसे ही मेरे सभी मर्चेंट्स, मेरे डीलर्स का क्या होता है, गुड्स वहीं पे रखना होता है, वेर इन देर इज नो सेपरेट लॉक एंड की. So in that case, he is an operator of the warehouse. That operator, when it is he is operating it, he will have to keep control of the movement of good because maybe क्या कर रहा हूँ मैं, तो उसके भरोसे पे ही वहां पे goods store कर रहा हूँ. So he should have control on my goods. That's why the responsibility under GST is also cast on the owner or operator of the warehouse or the godown, or it could be a godown or any place where the goods are being stored. Sir, if unregistered GST person also have to maintain accounts, yes, sir, that is what we are saying. That is exactly our point in this third point, saying that Even if he is not registered, he will have to maintain control on the goods what is being saved there, because that's a general thing that he will have to keep it. Accounts can be maintained. Now, when you say accounts, can it should be electronic or mechanical or manual? It can be both electronic or non-electronic form. That is, it can be manually also, no problem. सर बस जीएसटी रिटर्न ऑनलाइन हो गया तो सभी रिकॉर्ड्स ऑनलाइन मेंटेन करना जरूरी है? नॉट नेसेसरी. आपके कन्वीनियंस के लिए आप ऑनलाइन मेंटेन करते हो सो दैट यू कैन रिपोर्ट द डेटा टू द जीएसटी on a timely and quickly basis. But if you maintain it manually, that is also possible. You can maintain it manually and file your returns electronically. Then there's no prescribed format for maintaining the accounts. इतना accounts बोलते हैं कि maintain करो, but GST law is a tax law. It is not an accounting standard or a accountant's law wherein it will tell you how it is to be maintained, what it is to maintain. So they have not given you any format. It can be maintained in any format. They say these are the requirements which has to be maintained. आप कैसे maintain करना आपके हाथ में. You can maintain it in any way. It can be maintained in general format which is prescribed under other laws. जैसे इनकम टैक्स एक्ट में कुछ बोलता है तो उसके हिसाब से आप मेंटेन कीजिए. लाइक दैट अगर कुछ आपके पास है तो फिर आप वैसे मेंटेन कर सकते हो. But GST law does not have any such fixed or standards which says that you have to maintain it in this way itself. Next is, when we say books of accounts have to be maintained at the principal place of business, what is the definition of place of business? A place of business means a place from where the business is ordinarily carried out and includes a warehouse or godown or any other place where a taxable person stores his goods, supplies or receives goods or services or both. So generally the place from where he is carrying on his business, that is called as a place of business. Either he can carry out the business from there or he generally stores any goods over there. Both of them will be treated as place of business. And a place where a taxable person maintains his books of accounts. If he is carrying on the business from there, that's fine. If he's not carrying out, he's just keeping books of accounts, that can also be a place of business. Or a place where a taxable person is engaged in business through an agent by whatever name called. So the person is having a factory in Delhi, but in Bangalore, it is operated through an agent. So the agent who is carrying on this business, that agent's place will become the place of business. Clear? So place of business can be the place from where the business is ordinarily carried on, and it includes a warehouse or a godown. All of that is the place of business, or the place where he maintains the books of accounts. And if he's operating through an agent, then the agent's place will become the place of business. Now, section 35, which is on accounts and records, the main section on maintaining the accounts and records says that the accounts are to be maintained at the principal place of business, which is mentioned in the certificate of registration. When you see a GST registration certificate, you will have a annexure which will give you the address of all your locations Because when you register, you have to give, if you have multiple place of business, you have to give addresses of all the places and say these are the places where we are having our records. This is where we are operating from. All the other addresses within one state. If it is in different state, will you give it? In your registration, we have gone through the registration, right, briefly. So in your registration certificate, will you give the address of all the branches in one state or in multiple states? That also you will give. Come on, give me your answers. What do you think? When you say that you have to give addresses, the accounts are to be maintained at the principal place of business. And in case of multiple place of businesses, the accounts relating to each place of business shall be kept. But in the registration certificate, my question is, in the registration certificate, what all address will you give? You can give all place of business. So if you say a company like Reliance, Reliance is having branches all across India. So in their registration in Karnataka, they will give address of Delhi, Mumbai, Jammu Kashmir, Haryana, Kolkata, everywhere. No, that is not the correct answer. Whatever registration is given, you have to understand that registration is for both CGST Act, SGST Act. So there is one registration for both CGST and SGST Act. And SGST Act is state specific. तो एक स्टेट का एक रजिस्ट्रेशन होगा, आपका रजिस्ट्रेशन कंसोलिडेटेड या सेंट्रल बैंगलोर फुल इंडिया का सेंट्रल रजिस्ट्रेशन तो नहीं होगा. यू विल गेट स्टेट स्पेसिफिक रजिस्ट्रेशन. तो फिर इस स्टेट के अंदर आपके जो जो ब्रांचेस हैं वो ही आपको एडिशनल प्लेस ऑफ बिजनेस में मेंशन करना है. So you don't have to mention all the branches across India. You have to only mention those branches which is are there in your state. जो भी आपके state में place of business है, principal place of business और additional place of business, उसी को आप add करके registration application में submit करोगे. You will not give addresses which is outside the state. It will not accept also because whatever registrations within the state, only that the GST officers are concerned with. Other state registration, the other state GST officer will take care of it. Correct? So you will have to only mention all the addresses within your state. Okay? So the accounts are to be maintained if multiple states are there. One place will be identified as principal place of business and you have to maintain all the records at the principal place of business. In case of multiple places of business, which is as specified in the certificate of registration, जो हमने डिस्कस किया है कि जो एडिशनल प्लेस ऑफ बिजनेस है रजिस्ट्रेशन सर्टिफिकेट में मेंशन रहेंगे, लेकिन कौन से वाले? सिर्फ एक स्टेट के अंदर वाले प्लेसेस मेंशन रहेंगे. The accounts relating to each place of business shall be kept at the respective place of business concerned. मेन प्रिंसिपल प्लेस ऑफ बिजनेस है मुंबई में, पुणे में मेरे ब्रांच है, नासिक में ब्रांच है, तो नासिक के ब्रांच के रिकॉर्ड्स नासिक में रहेंगे, पुणे के ब्रांच के रिकॉर्ड्स पुणे में रहेंगे. ठीक है? If any documents, registers, books of accounts belonging to registered person are found at any premises other than the registered places, then it shall be presumed to be maintained by the registered person. अगर आप बोलते हो प्रिंसिपल प्लेस ऑफ बिजनेस है और एडिशनल प्लेस ऑफ बिजनेस है, लेकिन आपके बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स, आपके डॉक्यूमेंट्स या रजिस्टर्स किसी और प्रीमाइसेस में मिल गए हैं, देन यू कैन नॉट डिनाई एनीथिंग. ऑफिसर बोलेगा आपके रिकॉर्ड्स यहाँ पे मिले हैं जहां पर आपने रजिस्ट्रेशन नहीं किया है, लेकिन ये भी आपका एडिशनल प्लेस ऑफ बिजनेस है। देन मेन प्लेस जहां पे है आपका प्रिंसिपल प्लेस ऑफ बिजनेस, और दिस प्लेस वेयर यू मेंटेन द बुक्स, दैट विल आल्सो बी ट्रीटेड एज योर रजिस्टर्ड प्लेस इटसेल्फ। Okay, that will be treated as the this is maintained by you and you have to register this place also. There is no relaxation provided to persons who are voluntary obtained registrations. सर हमारा रजिस्ट्रेशन करना था बेसिस क्रॉसिंग द थ्रेशोल्ड लिमिट, समझ गए, लेकिन ये बंदे को देखिए, इसने वॉलेंट्री रजिस्ट्रेशन लिया है, इसका टर्नओवर तो अभी 1 लाख ही है, अब ये क्या मेंटेन करेगा? गवर्नमेंट ने कहा नहीं, अगर आप रजिस्टर्ड हो तो आप रजिस्टर्ड ही हो, आपको कुछ अलग या स्पेशल कंसेशनल ट्रीटमेंट नहीं मिलेगा, सेइंग दैट नहीं आपने वॉलेंट्री रजिस्ट्रेशन ले लिया, आप एक बार मुसल के अंदर गला डाल दिए तो कटना ही है। वैसे ही वंस यू हैव टेकन रजिस्ट्रेशन, आपको पूरे जीएसटी लॉज के रिक्वायरमेंट्स और रेगुलेशंस फॉलो तो करना ही पड़े। फिर आपको कुछ एक्सेप्शन, कुछ और नहीं, कुछ नहीं मिलेगा आपको। रजिस्ट्रेशन कर दिया आपने वॉलंटरी या कंपल्सरी, आपको सभी प्रोविजंस अप्लीकेबल हो जाए। ठीक है। Unless proved otherwise, if any documents, register, or any books of accounts belonging to a registered person are found at any premises other than those mentioned, they shall be presumed to be mentioned by the registered person itself. Sir, registration requirement also applicable to CTP, NRTP, or UIN? Yes, yes, yes. Registration requirement तो सबके लिए है, जो नॉर्मल पर्सन के लिए, कैजुअल टैक्सेबल पर्सन, नॉन रेसिडेंट टैक्सेबल पर्सन, कॉम्पोजिशन टैक्स पर्सन, यूआईएन, सबके लिए रजिस्ट्रेशन रिक्वायरमेंट है। रजिस्ट्रेशन तो फर्स्ट पॉइंट है, फर्स्ट रजिस्टर करेगा तभी तो आगे काम कर पाएगा। ठीक है। द टर्म्स बुक्स एंड अकाउंट्स आर नॉट डिफाइंड इन द एक्ट, द जनरल मीनिंग विच इज अटैच टू दिस हैज टू बी कंसिडर्ड। जैसे हमने कहा बुक्स और अकाउंट्स रिकॉर्ड्स, जो जनरल मीनिंग है उसका ही इंटरप्रिटेशन यूज करना पड़ेगा। The registered person has the option to keep and maintain accounts and other records in electronic form. तो अगर मैनुअल मेंटेन करना है तो मैनुअल मेंटेन करो, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मेंटेन करना है तो इलेक्ट्रॉनिक भी मेंटेन कर सकते हो, लेकिन जब इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मेंटेन करते हो, द रिकॉर्ड्स शुड बी ऑथेंटिकेटेड बाय वे ऑफ अ डिजिटल सिग्नेचर। ठीक है, क्योंकि इलेक्ट्रॉनिक रिकॉर्ड्स में चेंजेस आप कभी भी कर सकते हो, तो इसीलिए द रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन विल हैव टू ऑथेंटिकेट जो भी इलेक्ट्रॉनिक रिकॉर्ड्स मेंटेन करना है, उसके डिजिटल सिग्नेचर से उसको वो रिपोर्ट्स को, उस इंफॉर्मेशन को ऑथेंटिकेट करना पड़ेगा। अदरवाइज ही कैन गिव वन रिपोर्ट टुडे, टुमारो ही कैन चेंज इट। मैनुअल में तो चेंज करेंगे तो दिख जाएगा, लेकिन इलेक्ट्रॉनिक में क्या इरेजर का मार्क आएगा? कुछ नहीं आएगा। यू जस्ट डू डिलीट, यू हैव टू डू एडिट, वॉट एवर थिंग्स यू हैव टू डू इन वर्ड डॉक्यूमेंट और एक्सेल, यू विल डू इट। That's why whatever documents you give from your electronic records will have to be authenticated by way of a digital signature certificate. Now, what are the accounts and records which has to be maintained? Separate accounts will be required to be maintained by a single person. एक पर्सन को अलग अलग रिकॉर्ड मेंटेन करना पड़ेगा इन रेस्पेक्ट ऑफ ईच ऑफ द GSTINs ऑपरेटिव ड्यूरिंग द ईयर। एक कंपनी है, एक इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न फाइल करती है, okay, now they have 10 branches in different states, okay, so फिर what all records they have to maintain in terms of branches में बोल रहा हूँ, not in terms of nature of the records, but if they have 10 branches, should they maintain all of that at the central office where income tax audit is carried out, or how should they maintain? Yes, Bhumika, even for CTP, NRTP, and UI and composition taxpayers, maintenance of accounts are required. Since they are all registered, they are also required. You're right. So my question is, if a company is having one PAN, having its central office in Mumbai, and having 9 other branches in 9 other states, so should they maintain one accounts because income tax return तो एक ही जा रहा है? Swati Singh, no sir, they should maintain separately, and at the time of audit, they need to be transferred to the main place. Should be maintained at respective branches is what Shoaib is saying. Separate account, okay. So everybody is considered and consented, or we are all agreeing to that point that separate registration है, because यहाँ पे clearly बोलता है ना, in respect of each of the GSTN's operative. So if I have 10 branches, 10 जगहों पे भी मैंने registration ले लिया है, तो फिर each state का records I have to maintain at that state itself. Centralized income tax records will be at the central office, but the branch accounts has to be maintained at the respective branch. Now that branch, if I have 2 branches in one state, then I have to keep it at the principal place of business of that state. Because we have seen, no, when there are multiple places of business in a state, then the records has to be maintained at the principal place of business. So if I have one branch in a state, I will keep it over there. If I have more than one branch, 2 or 3 branches are there in one state, then from them identify what is the principal place of business and maintain all the records which are mentioned there in that principal place of business. Now they have to produce what they have to keep, what they have to keep true and correct amount of the following. Okay, so each GSTIN, wherever he has branches in a different state, he will take a separate GSTIN number. So for each of those GSTIN number, separate accounts has to be maintained. What accounts has to be maintained now? Very important, because this is the point what we are trying to come from and understand this. They have to maintain true and correct account of the following. One is production, details regarding production or manufacturing of goods. Then inward and outward supply of goods. Okay. Whatever production happens, we are not talking about taxes at all here, just the normal process. Whatever production or manufacturing goods is happening, what is the inward and outward supply of goods? So you should have a inward record of what all goods are getting purchased and what all goods are getting sold. Then stock record of the goods. All these goods, wherever it is there, you have to have a physical control properly. So stock record of the goods. Input tax credit availed. This is a requirement not under section 16, because section 16 does not say that you have to mention a input tax credit register, but section 35 says that whatever input tax credit you are availing, that has to be maintained in a register. That is called as input tax credit register. That is there under the portal, input tax credit ledger. That will be giving you the amount, but background of this, why credit is claimed and everything, that will be mentioned in the input tax credit avail ledger. Okay, this is different from the electronic credit ledger. Electronic credit ledger is one where all the months input tax what we are claiming in our return will go and sit in the electronic credit ledger. But the basis how you get this input tax credit is all mentioned in the input tax credit availed ledger. Then output tax payable and paid whatever is the output tax payable and paid, that will be again mentioned and part of section 35, that you have to also maintain कि आपने कितना sales किया है. When they say output tax payable, they have not said only sales. So there are other forms of supply we have seen. So all of that 8 forms ko milake, whatever is the output tax payable, that output tax payable and paid has to be maintained, and such other particulars as may be prescribed. तो इन्होंने कहा कि we are only giving this, then we are giving powers to the बोर्ड, सेंट्रल बोर्ड ऑफ इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स एंड कस्टम्स की, वो अगर चाहिए तो नोटिफिकेशन करके कुछ और भी डॉक्यूमेंट्स प्रिस्क्राइब कर सकते हैं, लेकिन हमारी तरफ से ये 5 लॉ में लिखा हुआ है, सेइंग दैट प्रोडक्शन और मैन्युफैक्चरिंग ऑफ गुड्स, इनवर्ड एंड आउटवर्ड सप्लाई ऑफ गुड्स, स्टॉक रिकॉर्ड्स ऑफ द गुड्स, इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट avail details, output tax payable and paid, and such other particulars as may be prescribed. Okay. And this is the basic requirement. Now, but important aspect is just not maintaining the accounts. They have to be true and correct account to be followed. Can't be that something you maintain and give it to them. Not possible. You have to maintain a true and correct account unless a auditor is there. So there is a difference between a audit and books of accounts. Tell me, what is the difference? What is the disclosure or responsibility of an auditor, and what is the responsibility of an accountant here? Correct. Swati, you have given a correct answer. What are others saying? What do you think is the difference between an accountant and an auditor? Accountant gives true and fair and correct view. Komal Preet also is giving correct answer. Auditor's responsibility is to give opinion whether it presents true and fair view. That is very important. So the auditor's responsibility is to give a true, from his audit, from his evaluation, check करके वो क्या बोलेगा, whether the accounts represents a true and fair view. Whereas accountant ये नहीं बोल सकता कि true and fair view है, भाई 500 रुपए का खर्चा हुआ छोड़ दो ना, उसका बिल नहीं है 300 लिख दो या 600 लिख दो. Accountant ऐसा नहीं कर सकता है, because accountant can't say that I'm maintaining a true and fair view. He has records, has to be true and correct. The auditor can't check all the records, not practically possible. That's why auditor will do a audit and give a true and fair view. Okay, but accountant will not be under this. He will have to give a true and correct account. He has to give a true and correct account of the following, which is production of goods, manufacturing of the goods, inward and outward supplies of goods or services, stock of the goods, ITC availed, output tax payable, and any other record which is prescribed by the rules. Clear? Now, what is the record which is prescribed by the rules? We will come to that. Now, the commissioner is empowered to notify a class of taxable person to maintain additional documents. ये documents 35 में already है. ये 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 तरह के document है. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the fifth is what is prescribed by the rules. So 5 is there. Now, what they say is the commissioner is empowered to notify a class of taxable person to maintain additional accounts or documents to be for the specified purpose, but no notification has been issued in this regard. But commissioner has that power, and they can permit a class of taxable persons to maintain the records in any other manner. कि किस लोगों को कुछ अलग special records maintain कर रहे हैं, then he has a power to mention it, saying that these people can make their records, maintain the records in a separate manner, provided he believes that they are not in a position to keep and maintain accounts in accordance with this section. क्योंकि one size does not fit all, correct? तो एक साइज बड़ा है, एक साइज छोटा है, एक मैं छोटा हूं, दूसरा लंबे है, तो इसीलिए सभी के साइज अलग होते हैं, एक कॉमन साइज नहीं मिलता है, करेक्ट? वन साइज विल नॉट फिट ऑल. That's way how you treat a particular class of tax person. If he believes that they are not in a position to maintain a book of accounts, then special treatment will be given to them, and they they will be given an exemption from maintaining the books of accounts, or they will be told to maintain only certain books of accounts. Additionally, a registered person should maintain a true and correct view of, मतलब ये जो रूल्स है हमने बोला था ना कि रिकॉर्ड विच इज प्रिस्क्राइब बाय द रूल्स, ये पांच चीजें तो एक्ट में है, रूल्स में ये बताया गया है. रूल्स में क्या बोला गया है? सेइंग दैट द गुड्स आर सर्विसेज इंपोर्टेड और एक्सपोर्टेड. उसमें बेसिक लिख दिया है. अभी इसमें क्या कहा है? द गुड्स आर सर्विसेज जो इंपोर्ट और एक्सपोर्ट है वो भी मेंटेन कीजिए आप. Then supplies attracting payment of tax on reverse charge basis, along with the relevant documents, including invoices, bill of supply, delivery challans, credit note, debit notes, receipt voucher, refund voucher, and payment voucher. ये सब आपको reverse charge के लिए maintain करना पड़ेगा. You have to maintain those records on which tax is payable on reverse charge basis. Okay. तो देर यू विल मेंशन द इनवॉइसेस जो सप्लायर ने दिया, इनवॉइसेस या फिर सेल्फ इनवॉइस आप रेज करोगे, बिल ऑफ सप्लाई, डिलीवरी चलान्स, क्रेडिट नोट्स, डेबिट नोट्स, रिसिप्ट वाउचर, दीज आल्सो यू हैव टू मेंटेन. देन सेपरेट अकाउंट्स ऑफ एडवांसेस रिसीव्ड, पेड एंड एडजस्टमेंट्स. क्यों? क्योंकि सर्विसेज के केसेस में एडवांसेस पे भी जीएसटी लगेगा. सो एनी एडवांसेस रिसीव्ड, ऑन दैट व्हाट इज द जीएसटी पेएबल, what is paid, and the adjustments made thereto. Then name and complete address of the suppliers from whom he has received the goods or services. So name and complete address of the suppliers he has to maintain, because the supplier does not charge the tax, then our supplier does not remit the tax to the government. So if government can take the details from you and go and catch him. So name and complete address of the suppliers from whom you have received the goods, and name and complete address of the persons to whom you will make a supply. That is all your customers. All your vendors and customers' name and address has to be maintained. Okay? So the law says 5 parts and the rule says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts. Or rule says further, sixth one, the complete address of the premises where the goods are stored. That also you have to maintain. If you have multiple 10 branches, and if you don't remember that, so you have to have a record of the address of the premises where all you are saving your goods. Okay? So the act says 5, the rule says 6 things. Then, however, if any taxable goods are found to be stored at any place other than those declared without the cover of any valid documents, the proper officer shall determine the amount of tax payable on such goods as if such goods have been supplied by the registered person. मतलब क्या है? मैंने रजिस्टर कर लिया मेरे गोडाउन को, और गोडाउन पे मेरे गुड्स हैं, ठीक है, वहां से जो भी मैं सेल करूंगा वो मेरे कंट्रोल में है, पता चलता है. लेकिन मैंने क्या किया, एक और वेयर हाउस ले लिया है, और उस वेयर हाउस में 2 नंबर का काम करता हूँ, और वो वेयर हाउस, सेकेंड वेयर हाउस का रजिस्ट्रेशन सर्टिफिकेट में डिटेल नहीं है. अगर ये टैक्स ऑफिसर को पता चल गया, देन वॉट एवर टैक्सेबल गुड्स आर फाउंड other than the declared place, okay, where the taxable goods are found at any place which is not declared, then the proper officer shall determine the amount of tax payable. ठीक है. So he has to maintain the records other than those declared. If something else is maintaining, अगर दो नंबर का काम कर रहा है, he's not declaring it in the GST returns and he's doing some kind of transaction at some other place, then उस जगह पे प्रॉपर ऑफिसर, जीएसटी ऑफिसर जाके डिटरमाइन कर सकता है कि ये गुड्स के बेसिस पे कितने सेल हुए हैं, एंड ही कैन डिटरमाइन द टैक्स पेएबल. सो दैट्स कॉल्ड एज लाइक बेस्ट जजमेंट असेसमेंट, सेइंग वो असेसमेंट कर सकता है कहाँ पे, वो उस जगह पे जहाँ पे आपने रजिस्ट्रेशन नहीं लिया है लेकिन आपके गुड्स तो पड़े. तो गुड्स आए हैं तो पहले भी आपने ट्रांजेक्शन किए रहेंगे, परचेजेस भी लिया रहेगा, परचेज नहीं दिखाया रहेगा. ठीक है. सो बी केयरफुल दैट अगर आप कुछ नई जगह ले रहे हो जीएसटी में, देन दैट प्लेस हैज टू बी रजिस्टर्ड अंडर जीएसटी. अगर रजिस्टर नहीं किया तो ऑफिसर अज्यूम करेगा कि नहीं आपने इतना स्टॉक रखा है, मतलब 5 गुना तो सेल किया गया है, और एक्चुअल में आपने नहीं किया रहेगा. Just because of your mistake of not declaring that place as an additional place of business, the damage what you will suffer is that officer will determine what is the tax payable and you will have to then justify that. Officer will not justify. He'll tell this is the liability what I'm thinking. Now you have to prove that नहीं आपने कुछ सेल नहीं किया. How will you prove it? Very tough. So इसीलिए अगर कुछ additional place of business किसी क्लाइंट को सजेस्ट करते हो तो बोला यू टेक अ न्यू प्लेस ऑफ बिजनेस बट ऑन अ टाइमली मैनर इंक्लूड दैट इन योर रजिस्ट्रेशन सर्टिफिकेट प्लीज. ठीक है. Additional records to be maintained is stock of goods. When we say that commissioner is empowered to mention, specify what is the additional records, these are the additional records बोला गया है. Stock of goods, accounts of goods, जो भी goods है परचेज किए, सेल किए, अगर सेल नहीं किया तो फिर इट्स गॉट डिस्पोज्ड ऑफ, डिस्ट्रॉय, लॉस, स्टॉलन, स्क्रैप में कुछ बेच दिया, सबके रिकॉर्ड्स आपको मेंटेन करना है. Then details of tax, that is, what is the tax payable under normal sales? What is the tax payable under reverse charge under 9394? What is the tax which you have collected? What is that which you have paid? And income and input tax credit claimed together with the register of tax invoice, credit note, debit notes, delivery challan issued during the period. मतलब whatever is the tax payable through any of these documents, could be tax invoice, could be debit note, credit note से कम हो रहा है, सबका आपको टैक्स का डिटेल मेंटेन करना पड़ेगा. सो इफ यू मेंटेनिंग योर बुक्स इन टैली और एनी accounting software, this basic details will be available. Now this was in respect to registered person. Now apart from registered person, we'll go and see what are the records which is specified for special category of people, saying that apart from registered person there are special category of people. ये जो registered person है ये तो मेंटेन सबको करना ही पड़ेगा, लेकिन if it's an agent, if it is a warehouse holder, they have to maintain extra records which we will see. ठीक है. Any doubts till now? We'll just take 2 minutes for your questions, then we'll take a break of 10 minutes. नो डाउट समझ में आ गया अब तक कि कौन से रिकॉर्ड्स मेंटेन करने हैं ना. सो लेट्स रिकैप्सुलेट फॉर अ रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन कौन से रिकॉर्ड्स मेंटेन करने हैं. फर्स्ट इज प्रोडक्शन, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग ऑफ द गुड्स, inward and outward supplies of goods or services, stock of your goods, ITC availed, output tax payable and paid. Then import जो किया है could be services or goods, import export, supplies attracting tax on reverse charge basis, separate accounts for advances received, name and address of the suppliers, name and address of their customers, and complete or address of the premises where you are storing your books of accounts. और उसके बाद stock of the accounts and details of tax. This is all what a registered person will have to maintain. Okay. So now specific people will go first. We'll start with जैसे agent के पास जाएंगे. Agent को क्या records maintain करना है, that we'll understand. Like that, various multiple people are there. How they will have to be maintained, we will see it here. Okay. So we'll take a break of 10 minutes and catch back at 4:30. So we were discussing on what is the additional records which is to be maintained by a different person. So we know what is the additional records to be maintained by the registered person. Now, what is the additional records to be maintained by different person? So we'll start with the agent. Agent will have to mention the following additional records. One is particulars of authorization received. Happy International Accounting Day. Thank you. Thank you, Swati. Happy International Accounting Day to all the accountants as well. You are also part of the accountant group itself. So any agent should maintain accounts depicting the particulars of authorization received by him from every principal to receive or supply the goods. So whatever is the authorization he will have, because one agent can be a agent for multiple principals, right? It's not that one agent should stick on to only one principal. He can have engagement with multiple principals. So whatever principles he has, authorizations, what he's got, he has to maintain records of that so that he can prove that yes, he is doing that business based on the authorization which he's received from the multiple principals. Then particulars including description, value, and quantity of the goods or services received on behalf of every principal. Whatever is the value and quantity of goods he's received from the principal, because agent is acting on behalf of the principal, so principals के records को उसको maintain करना पड़ेगा. And whatever goods he supplied on behalf of the principal उसका भी record, जो goods मिला है on behalf of principal उसके records, और principal के behalf पे जो supply किया उसके records. Then details of accounts what he's furnishing to a principal, क्योंकि प्रिंसिपल एजेंट से रिकॉर्ड्स मांगेगा कि मेरे कितने सेल हुए, क्या प्राइस पे सेल हुए, मुझे दीजिए. तो ये रिकॉर्ड वो प्रिंसिपल को देगा, ये रिकॉर्ड उसको भी मेंटेन करना पड़ेगा. देन टैक्स पेड ऑन रिसिप्ट्स, जो रिसिप्ट किया उसके ऊपर जो टैक्स पे किया है, और जो सप्लाई किया है उसके ऊपर जो टैक्स पे करना है उसको भी रिकॉर्ड्स मेंटेन करेगा. ओके, बिकॉज डिपेंडिंग ऑन द टाइप ऑफ एजेंट, ठीक है, वेदर ही इज कवर्ड अंडर शेड्यूल 1 और नो, लायबिलिटी प्रिंसिपल या एजेंट पे आ सकती है. इसलिए रिकॉर्ड्स एजेंट को मेंटेन करना पड़ेगा. सो व्हेन आई से दीज स्पेसिफिक पीपल हियर, दीज रिकॉर्ड्स आर इन एडिशन टू दैट. इसीलिए स्टार्टिंग में ही हेडिंग में ही देखिए आप, वी आर सेइंग दैट व्हाट आर द additional records to be maintained by them. So they are all registered. So whatever the basic 5 plus 5 records we have said to be maintained by every registered person, they will maintain it. Uske alawa, these are the additional records which they have to maintain. So every registered person manufacturing goods shall maintain monthly production accounts. क्योंकि मैन्युफैक्चरर के प्रोडक्शन रिकॉर्ड्स मेंटेन करना है, तो दे विल मेंटेन द मंथली प्रोडक्शन रिकॉर्ड्स which will show the quantitative details of raw materials or services which is used in the manufacture. जो इनके मैन्युफैक्चर के लिए जो रॉ मटेरियल सर्विसेज यूज किए हैं, एंड देन क्वांटिटेटिव डिटेल्स ऑफ द गुड्स सो मैन्युफैक्चर्ड इंक्लूडिंग द वेस्ट एंड एनी बाई प्रोडक्ट्स. ठीक है. सो बेसिकली देयर मैन्युफैक्चर के केस में क्या जरूरी है कि उनके क्वांटिटेटिव रिकॉर्ड्स मेंशन करना जरूरी है. सो दे विल हैव टू मेंशन द क्वांटिटेटिव रिकॉर्ड्स ऑफ वॉट एवर इज द रॉ मटेरियल्स दे आर यूज्ड. ठीक है. फिर उसका प्रोडक्शन करके जो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग आउटपुट आया है, तो फिर क्वांटिटेटिव डिटेल्स ऑफ द गुड सो मैन्युफैक्चर्ड इंक्लूडिंग द जो मैन्युफैक्चर भी किया है उसका क्वांटिटेटिव डिटेल्स, इनपुट कितना है उसका क्वांटिटेटिव डिटेल्स, एंड फिर सेल के बाद जो वेस्ट और बाई प्रोडक्ट होता है उसका भी डिटेल्स रखना जरूरी है, क्योंकि वेस्ट और बाई प्रोडक्ट्स भी जब सेल करते हैं उसके ऊपर भी टैक्स लगता है. तो दिस रिकॉर्ड्स हैव टू बी मेंटेन बाय द मैन्युफैक्चरर. देन सर्विस प्रोवाइडर. सर्विस प्रोवाइडर को क्या मेंटेन करना है? बहुत सिंपल, लेकिन वो भी क्या कर सकता है, वो गुड्स यूज कर सकता है. जैसे जॉब वर्कर इज हु, ही इज अ सर्विस प्रोवाइडर, बट ही मे बी यूजिंग सम गुड्स, जैसे कंज्यूमेबल्स यूज कर सकता है. सो ही विल हैव टू मेंटेन क्वांटिटेटिव डिटेल्स ऑफ गुड्स विच इज यूज्ड इन द प्रोविजन ऑफ सर्विसेज. क्यों? क्योंकि उसने जो भी गुड्स यूज किए हैं उसका क्रेडिट ले सकता है. So that's why he will have to maintain quantity details of the goods which is used in the provision of services. Then details of input services utilized and what is the services supplied. उसका तो यही है मेन काम, कि जो सर्विस यूज करता है वो मोस्टली उसके सैलरी कॉस्ट रहते हैं, तो उसके लिए उसके अकाउंट्स में जरूरी है. और लेकिन सैलरी के ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं है, दैट्स फाइन. अपार्ट फ्रॉम सैलरी, अदर सर्विसेज, अदर कंसल्टेंसी चार्जेस, all the expenses on which he's claimed the credit, that detail he will have to maintain, and whatever is the services he's supplied, that he will have to maintain. Taxes तो already हमने बोल दिया है फर्स्ट स्लाइड में, that जो taxes payable है उसको तो वो मेंटेन करेगा ही. उसके अलावा डिटेल्स ऑफ इनपुट सर्विसेज रिसीव, डिटेल्स ऑफ सर्विसेज सप्लाइड, मतलब परचेज और सेल्स, और whatever goods he's used in provision of services, that also we'll have to maintain. Then additional records to be maintained by a person executing works contractor. Works contractor का मतलब क्या है? Who is executing a immovable property. अगर वो movable property है जिसमें goods और services दोनों include होते हैं, he will not be treated as a works contractor. A works contractor under GST law is one who deals with construction, alteration, repair, maintenance of a immovable property. So if it's an immovable property work, then only he's a works contractor. Now this works contractor will have to mention the following: the name and address of the person on whose behalf he is doing this works contract, क्योंकि वो own behalf पे नहीं करेगा. A works contractor does the work generally on behalf of others. So we will have to maintain the register of the persons on whose behalf he is doing the works contract. Then description, value, and quantity of the goods or services received for the execution of works contract. जो भी quantity वो purchase कर रहा है for executing that works contract. Then whatever he is bought it, whatever is utilized it, दोनों को मेंशन करना पड़ेगा. और अल्टीमेटली व्हाट इज सेलिंग उसका क्वांटिटेटिव डिटेल्स मेंशन नहीं करता है, बिकॉज इट्स अ वर्क्स कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, इट्स अ बिग प्रोजेक्ट. उसका क्वांटिटी मेंशन नहीं कर सकता है, बट ही विल मेंशन द प्रोजेक्ट्स, द डिटेल्स ऑफ द पेमेंट रिसीव्ड इन रेस्पेक्ट ऑफ ईच वर्क्स कॉन्ट्रैक्ट. सो एक एक काम के लिए जो पेमेंट रिसीव करता है उसका मेंशनिंग होगा. देन नेम एंड एड्रेस ऑफ द सप्लायर्स फ्रॉम whom he has received the goods. ठीक है. फर्स्ट इज क्वांटिटेटिव डिटेल्स पॉइंट नंबर बी में. फिर पॉइंट नंबर ई में क्या करेगा? नेम एंड एड्रेस ऑफ द सप्लायर्स फ्रॉम whom he has received the goods. ठीक है. दैट ऑल ऑफ दोस हैज टू बी मेंशन्ड बाय द वर्क्स कॉन्ट्रैक्टर. देन इफ ही इज अ पर्सन हु इज अ क्लियरिंग एंड फॉरवर्डिंग एजेंट, मतलब जब हम इंपोर्ट करते हैं कुछ चीजें, तब हम पोर्ट पे नहीं जा सकते हैं. तो वहां पे कौन होते हैं? वहां पे क्लियरिंग एंड फॉरवर्डिंग एजेंट्स होते हैं, जो हमारे कोड्स क्लियर करते हैं. हमारे को जब कुछ एक्सपोर्ट करना है, तब ये क्लियरिंग एंड फॉरवर्डिंग एजेंट डज द इंटरेक्शन विद द कस्टम्स ऑफिसर एंड दे क्लियर इट. So any person having custody over goods in the capacity of a carrier. Carrier का मतलब क्या हुआ? Who is a transporter. If any person who's having custody of our goods, जब मैं transporter को देता हूँ, he is not the owner. He is only carrying the goods on my behalf. So he is having the custody in his capacity as a lorry owner, in his capacity as a truck owner. So they are called as in his capacity as a courier. So he is carrying the goods, so he is called a carrier. So person who's having the custody of that goods or a clearing and forwarding agent for delivery or dispatch thereof to a recipient on behalf of any registered person, they shall maintain true and correct records in respect of a goods handled by him. क्योंकि उनका काम क्या है? बस हमारे गुड्स को सही से हैंडल करना है. सो दे हैव टू मेंटेन दैट रिकॉर्ड इटसेल्फ, सेइंग कि कितने क्वांटिटी आए थे, किससे आए थे, और किसको हमने डिलीवर किया है. और अगर क्लियरिंग एंड फॉरवर्डिंग एजेंट है तो फिर वो मेंशन करेगा कि कहाँ पे उसको शिप किया गया है. एंड शेल प्रोड्यूस द डिटेल्स देयर ऑफ एज एंड व्हेन रिक्वायर्ड बाय द प्रॉपर ऑफिसर. तो यहाँ पे कस्टोडियन एंड क्लियरिंग एंड फॉरवर्डिंग एजेंट रजिस्टर्ड भी हो सकते हैं या अनरजिस्टर्ड भी हो सकते हैं. वॉट एवर पॉसिबल दे हैव टू मेंशन द रिकॉर्ड्स. अगर अनरजिस्टर्ड है फिर भी वो गुड्स तो हमारे क्लियर कर रहे हैं, करेक्ट, बट मोस्टली दे विल बी रजिस्टर्ड, क्योंकि उनका लिमिट थ्रेशोल्ड से क्रॉस हो जाता है. सो दे विल हैव टू मेंशन these records for their business. ठीक है. Then additional records to be maintained by owner or operator of a warehouse or godown and transporter. ये हमने first देख लिया है. फिर भी ये फिर से कहता है law. The law mandates the following person to maintain the records of the consigner, consignee, and other relevant details of the goods, even if such persons are not registered. Somebody had asked a question, sir, warehouse holder, transporter, they are not registered. Still they have to maintain it. Yes, they will have to maintain these goods, maintain these records. Who are they? Transporter of the goods and the persons who own and operate, or persons who operate दे कुड बी ओनर और ऑपरेटर, या फिर ओनर कोई और हो सकता है, ऑपरेटर दूसरा हो सकता है। तो प्राइमरी रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी किसकी होगी? ऑपरेटर की होगी। सो द पर्सन हु ओन्स एंड ऑपरेट्स इट, or the person who operates any warehouse, godown, etc. for storage of goods, the goods shall be stored in such manner in which they can be identified item wise and owner wise. तो जब हमने एग्जाम्पल किया था कि एक 20,000 स्क्वायर फीट की गोडाउन है, उसमें आपके गुड्स सिर्फ 1,000 स्क्वायर फीट में है, तब जो ऑपरेटर है उसको ये भी पता लगना चाहिए कि आइटम वाइज, ओनर वाइज तो स्पेस मिल जाएगा उसको, सेइंग दैट इस ओनर का इस जगह पे है, लेकिन आइटम वाइज भी डिटेल उस ऑपरेटर के पास रहना चाहिए। मतलब whenever we are storing goods at some owners godown में, तो फिर वी कैनॉट से व्हेन द जीएसटी इंस्पेक्शन हैपेंस कि इतने सारे गुड्स में मेरे गुड्स कौन से, पता नहीं। देयर हैज टू बी स्पेसिफिक आइडेंटिफिकेशन ऑफ हु इज द ओनर एंड व्हाट आर द आइटम्स यू आर स्टोरिंग इट। सो द ऑपरेटर ऑफ अ वेयर हाउस हैज टू बी वेरी केयरफुल। उसको ही हैज टू गिव कंप्लीट डिटेल्स ऑफ स्टोरेज ऑफ द गुड्स एंड ऑपरेटेबिलिटी ऑफ द गुड्स ऑल्सो, कि उसको आइटम वाइज डिटेल्स पता होना चाहिए। मतलब सिस्टम शुड बी सो वेरी रोबस्ट कि उसको सब डिटेल्स वहां पे दिख जाना चाहिए। ठीक है। नाउ एनरोलमेंट, अगर वो ऑपरेटर एनरोल नहीं है या गोडाउन ओनर ऑपरेटर नहीं है, तो उसको क्या करना पड़ेगा? या ट्रांसपोर्टर, दिस अप्लाइज इवन टू ट्रांसपोर्टर, ट्रांसपोर्टर के प्लेस में भी क्या होता है, वो ट्रांसपोर्ट के लिए टाइम लगता है। टिल देन दे विल कीप देयर गुड्स इन देयर गोडाउन, till they own the goods in the godown, they will have to maintain the proper records of the stock movement. Now, if such persons are not registered, they shall obtain a unique enrollment number. रजिस्टर्ड है तो फिर आपको उनको जीएसटी नंबर मिल जाएगा, लेकिन जो ओनर और ऑपरेटर रजिस्टर्ड नहीं होते हैं, उनको एक यूनिक एनरोलमेंट नंबर मिलेगा बाय अप्लाइंग इलेक्ट्रॉनिकली इन फॉर्म जीएसटी ENR1। जीएसटी कॉमन पोर्टल में जीएसटी रजिस्ट्रेशन REG1 नॉर्मल पर्सन के लिए होता है, और ये ऑपरेटर के लिए ENR1 एनरोलमेंट नंबर 1 फाइल करना पड़ेगा। Where the said transporter has obtained a unique common enrollment number, he shall not be eligible to use any of the GSTI number. अगर ट्रांसपोर्टर एनरोलमेंट नंबर यूज कर लेगा, फिर उसको जीएसटी नंबर नहीं मिलेगा। Then the person enrolled as aforesaid in any other state shall be deemed to be enrolled in the state. इनके लिए सेंट्रलाइज रजिस्ट्रेशन मिल जाएगा। जैसे रजिस्ट्रेशन हमने कहा कि स्टेट वाइज चाहिए, लेकिन इस ट्रांसपोर्टर और गोडाउन ओनर को पर्सन एनरोल्ड एज एफोर्सेड, मतलब ट्रांसपोर्टर अगर दूसरे स्टेट में भी एनरोल्ड है, ENR1 करके उसको नंबर मिल गया, दैट इज सफिशिएंट, उसको हर स्टेट में अप्लाई करने की जरूरत नहीं। देन स्पेसिफिक रिकॉर्ड्स, एक बार एनरोल हो गया तो फिर क्या रिकॉर्ड्स मेंटेन करना है? दीज आर द रिकॉर्ड्स टू बी मेंटेन। जस्ट गिव मी 1 minute। Yeah. So, transporter, what records he will have to maintain? He will have to maintain the person, any person engaged in the business of transporting goods shall maintain records of the goods transported. So basically goods का ही maintain करेगा ना, goods transported, what is delivered and what is the goods stored in transit. मतलब जो भी goods आए हैं उसको which is yet to be delivered, that details with the GSTIN of the consignor and consignee for each of the branches he will have to maintain. Simple, जो भी goods आए हैं इन ट्रांजिट में हो और जो डिलीवर हो गए, तीन चीजें और ट्रांसपोर्टर को मेंटेन करनी है। फिर ओनर और ऑपरेटर ऑफ अ वेयर हाउस, ही विल हैव टू मेंटेन एडिशनल रिकॉर्ड्स। एवरी ओनर और ऑपरेटर ऑफ अ वेयर हाउस शैल मेंटेन बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स विद रेस्पेक्ट टू पीरियड फॉर विच पर्टिकुलर गुड्स रिमेन इन द वेयर हाउस रिलेटिंग टू डिस्पैच, मूवमेंट, रिसिप्ट एंड डिस्पोजल। तो वेयर हाउस वाले का ज्यादा रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, ही हैज टू मेंटेन full records of what is the goods received, what is receipt, and what is being disposed of. then owner or operator of the godown shall store the goods in such manner that they can be identified item wise and owner wise and shall facilitate physical verification or inspection by the proper officer. क्योंकि goods is very critical, main business happens on the storage of the goods. That's why the warehouse owner will have to mention detailed records of everything. ठीक है. Important aspect here is a person through clarification and circular ये बताया गया है, a person involved in auction either as a principal or an auctioneer shall declare, जो auction पे हो रहा है कुछ sale, he will declare the warehouse or other places as additional place of business in case such places are meant for storage of goods. क्योंकि वो कुछ auction कर रहा है तो कहीं तो goods से store करेगा, तब उस जहां पे भी वो गुड्स स्टोर कर रहा है उसे एडिशनल प्लेस करके he will update it in his registration certificate, and the principal and auctioneer shall also maintain the books of accounts in terms of section 35(1) at such places. मतलब ऑक्शनर और प्रिंसिपल दोनों को 35(1) जो रिकॉर्ड्स मेंटेन करने हैं वो पूरे डिटेल्स उस जगह पे जहां से वो ऑक्शन कर रहे हैं उस जगह पे जो भी गुड्स है उसके डिटेल्स उनको मेंटेन करने पड़ेंगे. However, it is clarified that the books of accounts may be maintained at the principal place of business. क्योंकि वो तो ऑक्शन के लिए टेम्परेरी जगह है तो वहां पे बुक्स मत रखिए, एटलीस्ट प्रिंसिपल प्लेस पे रखिए बोल रहे हैं. प्रिंसिपल प्लेस ऑफ बिजनेस इन केस ऑफ एनी डिफिकल्टीज in maintaining the books of accounts at such additional place of business. Okay, so generally क्या होता है, जो एडिशनल प्लेस ऑफ बिजनेस हमने कहा है उस प्लेस के रिकॉर्ड्स वहां पे मेंटेन होने चाहिए. सो ऑक्शनर जो ऑक्शन करेगा वो साल भर के लिए तो मेंटेन नहीं करेगा, वो मैक्सिमम 10 days 15 days और 1 month के लिए कुछ जगह लेगा. नाउ दैट प्लेस हैज टू बी डिक्लेयर्ड एज एडिशनल प्लेस ऑफ बिजनेस. सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, वेन एवर somebody does any business, say they do temporary business also, they will have to register that place as additional place of business. So ऑक्शनर करने वाले को भी उस जगह पे additional place of business डिक्लेयर करना है. डिक्लेयर करके देन व्हाट ही विल हैव टू डू, वहां का बुक्स ऑफ रिकॉर्ड्स वहां पे मेंटेन नहीं कर सकता है तो प्रिंसिपल प्लेस ऑफ बिजनेस पे मेंटेन करना चाहिए. दैट इज व्हाट दिस सर्कुलर इज क्लैरिफाइंग. अदर एस्पेक्ट इज इन केस ऑफ स्टोरेज ऑफ गुड्स इन गोडाउन ऑफ ट्रांसपोर्टर, the transporter's godown has to be treated as an additional place of business. The transporter and recipient shall maintain the books of accounts in terms of 35. However, it is clarified the books of accounts in relation to goods stored in the transporter's godown by the recipient taxpayer may be maintained by him at his principal place of business. क्योंकि मैं क्या करता हूं, मेरे पास जगह नहीं है तो इसलिए मैं ट्रांसपोर्टर की जगह को भी मेरे गोडाउन की तरह यूज करता हूं, तो फिर वहां का भी एडिशनल प्लेस ऑफ बिजनेस मेंशन करो अपने रजिस्ट्रेशन सर्टिफिकेट पे, एंड उसके रिकॉर्ड्स वहां पे मेंटेन नहीं कर सकते हो तो प्रिंसिपल प्लेस ऑफ बिजनेस में मेंटेन करो. सो दीज आर द टू प्लेसेस व्हिच दे हैव क्लैरिफाइड. वन इज द प्लेस ऑफ ऑक्शन एंड सेकेंड इज इन प्लेस ऑफ अ ट्रांसपोर्टर्स गोडाउन. ठीक है. नाउ हाउ आर द रिकॉर्ड्स टू बी मेंटेन, हमने देख लिया कि एजेंट है, गोडाउन है, ट्रांसपोर्टर है, various cases, what are the records to be maintained. Now, how will these records be maintained? Where records are maintained manually or electronically. दोनों ऑप्शन है आपके पास, या तो फिर मैन्युअली मेंटेन करो या फिर इलेक्ट्रॉनिकली मेंटेन करो. अगर आप मैन्युअली मेंटेन करते हो तो फिर द बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स जो है उसका सीरियली नंबर्ड रहना चाहिए. इट कांट बी अब्रप्टली, तो उसको सीरियली नंबर्ड करो. और इफ इट इज इलेक्ट्रॉनिकली बी मेंटेन, देन the registered person may keep and maintain such accounts and other particulars in an electronic form stored in any electronic device. मतलब कंप्यूटर, लैपटॉप, सर्वर, बैकअप करके आप पेन ड्राइव में भी सेव कर सकते हो. एंड रिकॉर्ड सो मेंटेन शैल बी ऑथेंटिकेटेड बाय मींस ऑफ अ डिजिटल सिग्नेचर. जो भी रिकॉर्ड्स है उसका आप डिजिटल सिग्नेचर से ऑथेंटिकेट कर सकते हो. सो यू कैन मेंटेन द रिकॉर्ड्स मैन्युअली ऑल्सो और इलेक्ट्रॉनिकली ऑल्सो. बोथ द ऑप्शंस आर गिवन टू यू. Where records are maintained in electronic forms, they will be maintained and preserved in such manner so that अगर डिस्ट्रक्शन हो गया तो आप उसको रिस्टोर कर सकते हो. ये तो बेसिक है. विदाउट जीएसटी लॉ ऑल्सो बेसिक है कि आप जो भी अपने रिकॉर्ड्स मेंटेन करते हो, कल वो क्रैश हो गया तब आपको क्या करना पड़ेगा, आप किसी को रिकवर नहीं कर सकते हो, तो इसीलिए एक बैकअप आपको कहीं और रखना चाहिए. दैट इज व्हाट जीएसटी लॉ इज ऑल्सो सेइंग. Then the registered person maintaining electronic records shall produce on demand the relevant records in hard copy. अगर ऑफिसर मांगता है तब उसका आप प्रिंट लेके भी दे सकते हो, या फिर इलेक्ट्रॉनिक रीडेबल फॉर्मेट जैसे पीडीएफ है और वर्ड एक्सेल, दैट ऑल्सो यू कैन गिव. Then where the accounts or records are stored electronically by any registered person, he shall on demand provide the details of such files, passwords and explanation for the codes. अगर आपका सिस्टम में पासवर्ड वगैरह है तो वो आपको ऑफिसर को देना पड़ेगा. With respect to what records and accounts. Where the accounts or records are stored electronically by any registered person, he shall on demand provide the details of such files, password or such files and explanations where necessary for access. जो उनको जो access चाहिए वो भी आप दे सकते हैं. नाउ नो एंट्री टू बी एरेस्ड. अगर आपने कुछ एंट्री कर दिया है उसको आप एरेज नहीं कर सकते. यू शुड नॉट एरेज इट. यू कैन स्ट्राइक इट ऑफ और यू कैन टेल इट एज कैंसल्ड, बिकॉज इफ इट गेट्स एरेज्ड अप तो फिर वो ऑडिट ट्रेल मेंटेन नहीं होगा. यू कांट नो व्हाट यू हैव एरेज्ड. सो यू शुड नॉट एरेज एनीथिंग. यू हैव टू कैंसल इट. ऑल इनकरेक्ट एंट्रीज अदरवाइज देन ऑफ क्लरिकल नेचर शैल बी स्कोर्ड आउट. मतलब कैंसिल करना चाहिए अंडर अटेस्टेशन, जो बेसिक हमारे ऑडिट में भी बोलता है कि दैट ऑल द रिकॉर्ड्स शुड बी प्रॉपरली मेंशन. यू शुड नॉट कैंसिल इट. इफ यू समथिंग इज रॉन्ग, you strike it off and generate a new one. You cannot tear it and tell no, it was cancelled, so I've thrown it. There has to be an audit trail. Similarly, here also there has to be audit trail where the registered are maintained electronically. A log of every entry edited and deleted should be maintained. So this is that अगर आप electronically maintain करते हो तो फिर cancel का कैसे पता चलेगा? So they should have a log saying that when was the entry made, when was it cancelled, when was it deleted, by whose authorization and whose approval. Okay. Accounts maintained by the registered person together with all the invoices, bill of entry, debit note, credit note should be preserved as provided in section 36, and where such accounts are maintained manually shall be kept at every registered place of business. Okay. Should be maintained as mentioned and shall be, if it is manually recorded, then it should be mentioned at every place of business. If you do not maintain this records, then what is the consequence? The registered person who fails to account for the goods and services in accordance with section 35, then the proper officer shall determine the amount of tax payable of the goods or services that are not accounted, and he will do the assessment under 73 and 74. अगर आप books of account maintain नहीं करते हो, then officer can determine the tax payable on his calculation and he shall give you a notice and he shall determine the tax payable. Now, for what period you have to retain these books? Every registered person who is required to keep and maintain books of accounts or other record shall retain them until the expiry of 72 months from the due date of furnishing of annual return for the year pertaining to such accounts and records. Okay. This is a very important point. 72 months कितना हो जाता है? How many years does it mean? 6 years. तो फिर 2023-24 का रिकॉर्ड्स आपको कब तक मेंटेन करना है? डेट बोलिए मेरे को. 23-24 I asked, right? 23-24 को या saying 29-30 तक. So are you saying 1st April 2029 या फिर 31st March 2030? This provision says, अभी तो मैंने पढ़ा है आपके सामने, every registered person required to maintain books of accounts or other records shall retain them until the expiry of 72 months. तो क्लियरली लिखा है ना, up till 72 months from the due date of furnishing of annual returns. नहीं नहीं, आप ऐसे नहीं बोल सकते हो 31st March 2030. 72 months not from the end of the financial year. जो आपके इनकम टैक्स में वैसा नहीं है यहाँ पे. It says 72 months from the due date of furnishing of annual return. तो 23-24 का एनुअल रिटर्न का डेट कब है? 31st December 2023. 2024. Correct? So 36 years from 31st December 2024, which comes as 31st December 2030. So 23-24 का आपको बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स 31st December 2030 तक मेंटेन करना है. That is how you will calculate. That is in understood? Yes, everybody is now giving a correct answer. That 72 months from the due date of furnishing of annual return है. Now, that is in case of a normal scenario, but where a registered person who is party to an appeal or revision, जो एक अपील या रिवीजन फाइल किया है या फिर कुछ और प्रोसीडिंग है अपेलेट अथॉरिटी या रिविजनल अथॉरिटी के केस में, देन वेदर फाइल्ड बाय हिम और बाय द कमिश्नर, जैसे उसने अपील फाइल किया है या फिर डिपार्टमेंट ने अपील फाइल किया है, then he shall retain the books of accounts and other records pertaining to the subject matter of such appeal for a period of 1 year, not just simple 1 year, 1 year after final disposal of this appeal. जैसे अपील के लिए 10 साल हो गए, तो अपील चलेगा तब तक आपको रिकॉर्ड्स मेंटेन करना पड़ेगा. इफ एनी ऑफ योर केस इज अंडर अपील और एनी डिपार्टमेंटल मैटर्स, you have gone to the high court, you have gone to the tribunal or anywhere, देन आपको अपील चलेगा, अपील क्लोज होगा तब तक तो मेंटेन करना ही पड़ेगा, और उसके साल भी 1 साल तक मेंटेन करना पड़ेगा. ओके, सो नॉर्मल केसेस अपील नहीं है, आपका ऑर्डर असेसमेंट एडजुडिकेशन क्लोज हो गया है, देन फाइन. अगर एडजुडिकेशन क्लोज नहीं हुआ है, ओपन है, तो फिर टिल द पीरियड दैट एडजुडिकेशन और द केस इज गोइंग ऑन एंड 1 year आफ्टर दैट. ओके, थैंक यू इसीलिए है क्योंकि वी हैव सब कंप्लीटेड दिस चैप्टर, बट आई हैव सर्टन MCQs टू refresh all of this. 1 year from the end of the financial year, not 1 year from the end of the financial year, 1 year from the date of final disposal. So if courts will not dispose on any particular day, so they will dispose of any point later also. Correct? So they will dispose of, say, in between the year. If 23-24's case, they are disposing on 5th of January 2031, then 5th of January 2032 तक आपको मेंशन करना है, not end of the financial year, things like that. From the date of order, 1 year from that. हाँ, ओम कृष्ण, ई वे बिल, यस, ई वे बिल हम नेक्स्ट चैप्टर में, नेक्स्ट क्लास में करेंगे, बिकॉज आई थॉट कि अकाउंट रिकॉर्ड्स करके फिर ई वे बिल करते हैं, सो विल प्रॉब्ली डू इट इन द नेक्स्ट क्लास फिर. सो कैन वी प्रोसीड विथ MCQs देन? तो आपके साथ सामने 20 सवाल हो जाएंगे, और आपको इन 20 सवालों के जवाब देने हैं. इसके लिए आपके पास कोई लाइफलाइन नहीं रहेगी. आपको अपने क्लास के बलबूते पर, आपकी पढ़ाई के ऊपर आपको जवाब देना पड़ेगा. तो फर्स्ट का आपने सही जवाब दिया है लगभग सबने, एक्सेप्ट ओम कृष्णोम ने, जिन्होंने आंसर दिया है सी। बाकी सब लोगों ने आंसर दिया है बी। क्योंकि यह रजिस्टर्ड वेयर हाउस है तो फिर उसे मेंटेन करना पड़ेगा कंप्लीट स्टॉक एंड कंसाइनमेंट रिकॉर्ड्स इवन विदाउट जीएसटी रजिस्ट्रेशन। उसे सिर्फ जीएसटी रजिस्टर्ड का नहीं मेंटेन करना है, अनरजिस्टर्ड है फिर भी उसको कंप्लीट स्टॉक एंड कंप्लीट कंसाइनमेंट रिकॉर्ड्स मेंटेन करना पड़ेगा भाऊ। करेक्ट, सो द करेक्ट आंसर इज बी। क्या हुआ, पेन को इंक खत्म हो गया। हाँ, ठीक है, आंसर इज बी। Yes. Second one, XYZ Textiles located in Jaipur found that certain goods stored in their godown were unaccounted under Section 35(6). How will the tax liability be determined for these goods? Answer is C. Yes. As if the goods supplied were by XYZ under the provisions of Section 73 or 74 apply करके उसका टैक्स लायबिलिटी डिटरमाइन किया जाएगा। आंसर इज सी। थर्ड क्वेश्चन, थर्ड वन, hopefully yes, everybody is given a correct answer. Logistics, unregistered transporter frequently moves goods from Delhi and Mumbai. According to GST, what must Mohan Logistic maintain? He has to maintain the records of transporter goods, deliveries, and GSTI numbers of the consigners and consignees. Correct. Answer B is correct answer. Hmm. Savitri is a registered person operating a small scale manufacturing unit in Gujarat. She maintains her records electronically. If a GST officer requests her records, how must she produce them? As a hard copy or in electronic readable format with passwords and access details provided. Correct. Answer is B. So very simple MCQs, I would say. Everybody is able to crack it or might be concentrated so well. Question number 5. 5 C and D. Oh my God. दो ऑप्शन बोल रहे हो आप. कोमलप्रीत 5 C एंड D. दो ऑप्शन कैसे हो सकते हैं? नहीं, इसमें तो एक ही ऑप्शन. Question is he's a registered person under composition scheme. Now, what of the following is not required to be maintained by him? Not what is maintained. They specifically highlighted here. Which of the following is not required to be maintained by AB and ABC Enterprises? Everybody is saying D. Nahi, it is A. स्टॉक ऑफ गुड्स इंक्लूडिंग ओपनिंग बैलेंस एंड वेस्टेजेस ये उसको मेंटेन करने की जरूरत नहीं है. Input tax credit claim, that is also correct because ITC is anyways not taking. Correct. That is also true. Composition taxpayer cannot claim. So you're saying A and C. A and D. Correct. So both are correct. Stock of goods also not required because a regular person will have to maintain. So he need not maintain the input tax credit claim. He will not collect tax also. Correct. That is also correct. But the most appropriate, क्योंकि in MCQs we have to give the most appropriate one, so we will give it to D itself. Because input tax credit is important because a composition taxable person may be dealing in goods, right? So A may be applicable. So A may not be the correct answer. The correct answer is D because input tax credit is what he will not claim. Details of tax collected. Okay, tax if he's collected or what he's charged in the invoice saying that inclusive, that he may record it, but he will have to pay, right? So that's why C will become relevant. D will be the appropriate answer because in any case, he cannot claim the input tax credit. Mrs. Rita is a service provider based in Bangalore, maintains her records manually. Under GST, what specific records must she fulfill? Requirements should she fulfill regarding her record entries? Simple है ना? Correct. Answer is B. She should ensure that each entry is serially numbered. Question number 7. Seventh one, A. Correct. ENR1. Correct. Simple. 8-1A. Ensure records are regularly backed up and can be restored if lost. Nine, yes. Infrastructure project company as serving ongoing works contracts. Which records are they specifically required to maintain? Name and address of the clients. Yes. Description of material use and payment details for each contract. 9B is the correct answer. Right. 10th one. Yes. 11. Answer is B. At each additional place of business mentioned in the register. Because in both, keep all the records of the principal. They are already mentioning. The question is, where else should they maintain? Correct? If they're having multiple registration, then at each additional place of business, they will have to maintain it. Wow. ABCs engaged in manufacturing goods. Records are maintained electronically. According to what authentication method should they use? Electronically के लिए क्या करना पड़ेगा? They have to use physical signature on printed. नहीं. Only a password protected file? No, it is C, digital signature. पासवर्ड नहीं देते हो तो भी जरूरी नहीं है. If you are giving password protected, then you give the password to the officer, but digital signature से you have to authenticate it. Special class, so special MCQs for you. 21 MCQs we are going to cover. Swaroop, you're the first one to answer. The answer is correct. ओम कृष्णोम, फिर से देखिए आपके आंसर को। Thirteenth answer, yes, B. Because what he need not do, he need not obtain registration if turnover is below registration threshold limit. He will have to maintain consignment records of each consignee and maintain records for goods stored in transit, and he has to provide records on demand. So all of that he will have to do. So he will not, what he will not require to do, that he will not be required to obtain GST registration if the registration is below the threshold limit. So answer is B. C nahi hoga na bhai. He has to maintain record of goods stored in transit. He is a warehouse holder, so he will have to maintain the records of goods stored in transit, right? This is tricky. First answer is A. Yes, because composition dealers are exempted. So he need not keep track of the goods given as samples. Huh? No, because even on his total turnover, tax is applicable. So he will have to maintain, even if he is exempt. Composition dealers are not exempt, right? They are taxable. So A is not the answer. So you are saying D. D, he must track all the goods received and supplied. No, that is also not correct. Whatever we have said कि stock records तो पूरे maintain करना पड़ेगा, movement of all the stock. So all dealers must record the goods disposed even on the samples, because that also is the quantitative details, right? Quantitative details of all the stocks has to be maintained. Okay. So his statement that he did not keep record of goods given as samples is incorrect. The reason is because all dealers must keep records of the goods disposed as samples. Vikram manages a godown for electronic products. If a GST officer demands the record of a particular stock item, which specific detail must Vikram be able to provide? Related to the previous question, what are the stock records he will have to provide? Here is a godown person. That's the only difference. 15B. Okay. Others. I think MCQ, once we give, your participation level is increasing. From next class, I will ensure that yes, at least minimum 15 MCQs we will have. Yes, 15. Answer is B. He has to give full particulars, including dispatch, movement, receipt, and disposal of the history. Full history usko dena padega. 16. A GST registered agent maintains accounts for all her principals. Which of the following records she not required to keep? 16C, correct. Because जो भी उसका है, in that agent's requirements, we have seen tax paid on receipts of supply of each principal, description of goods supplied and accounts furnished is there, but C is not there. So correct answer is C. Correct. 17th one, maintains GST records electronically. In case of data loss, they are required to. Correct. Retrieve a backup within a reasonable time. क्योंकि बैकअप रहेगा, बैकअप से रिट्रीव करो. Mithun, an infrastructure contractor in Delhi, receives materials from various suppliers for his projects. Which of the following is a mandatory record he must keep? Correct. 18. B. Quantities and values of all goods received and utilized in each project. He was a works contractor. Sonia operates a warehouse with goods belonging to multiple owners. How should these goods be stored? Very easy. Separately, so they can be identified item wise and owner wise. Correct. Very good. 20th question. This we have repeated. This is definitely a repetition. Yes, B, because we have seen that manual record should be serially numbered. And that takes us to the last question for the day. Every register person should maintain records for how long? Okay, I didn't twist this question. I just mentioned 36, 60, 72, 18 from the due date of furnishing of annual return. I should have mentioned some twisting over there, but yes, for everyone's satisfaction, last is a happy dessert that you have given all the correct answer. Very simple. 72 months from the due date of furnishing of annual return. Yes. 10th one we skipped. Let's go to the 10th one then. Yes, 10th one. Very good, good concentration. Om Krishnom and Abhishek. Amit, the owner of a manufacturing unit, records all goods used in production manually. Which of the following he is required to maintain in his monthly production account? This was a cakewalk, but yes, you've given a wrong answer. Swati, Arjun, wrong answer. Correct answer is B. Only raw materials and production quantities? No. He has to maintain quantities, all raw materials, finished goods, waste, and byproducts. There was another question, right? Where we said waste also has to be maintained. Yes, answer is B. Okay. So that was how we studied this chapter of maintaining of accounts and records with a wonderful marathon on MCQs. Thank you very much. We will continue on the e-way bill and the records in the next chapter. So next chapter we will have on e-way bill and payment of taxes and TDS and TCS. Okay. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend for the rest of your day. Yes, sir. Thank you.